Hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome to our first official podcast. I am joined by my co-host Ethan. Ethan, how are we doing today?
I'm good. How about you, man?
Man, I am chilling. Just like it's just thinking of everything. Kind of we've been here for like 2 weeks now, and it's amazing. We've been talking about kind of doing this podcast and kind of getting things going. You've been helping me with
All right.
my YouTube channel. I've been kind of like we've both been working on Evolve stuff, and like it's just amazing to kind of like keep ramping things up and just kind of enjoying the process of doing all this. And anyway, but yeah, enough riffing, man. What are we doing today? What's this podcast all about?
So, Noble, you and I have been having many like conversations in person on the phone, and then one of the things we've been riffing about just sometime on the phone for literally an hour. It's just discussing this aspect of sustainable lifestyle. We talk a lot about running. You're an amazing runner, and I started running only less than about 6 months ago, and I'm still nowhere near as good as you are as a runner. And I know you've been running for 10 years now, which is amazing. And we've talked about food all the time.
Lots of food.
We're
both foodies, if you didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we love good food, good and healthy and delicious food. We talk a lot about sleep. Just kind of living this holistic lifestyle that there's a balance in things. And then, of course, we're 23 years old, and we haven't got much of that figured out. But I think that's such a fun topic to explore, and Noble, you have a lot of ideas about from your perspective, and I would love to hear more from your perspective. And I love hearing about how all these scientific papers that you read about and all these things that you watch, and from your coaches and your teammates, and you want to.
Yeah, as someone who is kind of like, I hate the word collegiate athlete because I feel like that sounds kind of pretentious, but as someone who kind of like did athletics and stuff, I was on a cross country and track team all 4 years in college, and that's when I really got into running. I've been running for like 10 years now, but I really only been into it for like 4.5 or 5 years now. And it's just been so interesting to just like be flooded, just drowned in information by all the people I've been surrounded with, just as a byproduct of the coaches I've had and the teammates I've had, and the weights coaches I've had, the sports performance coaches, and the therapists I've had, the physical therapists, and just talking to a bunch of people. And I'm so interested just in combining the physical aspect and the psychological aspect of not just athletics, but all things in life. And that's where you come in. It's been so interesting to just like riff about how our worlds that may feel kind of different, where yours is more in a very productivity, like fast paced Silicon Valley lifestyle, and mine more into like a kind of a athletic pursuit based lifestyle, kind of living in that area. It's so fun to combine those two things and see how much in common there actually is, in terms of stress and how we treat our bodies. There's different responses to stress. And, I laugh, you say I've read a ton of articles, and I like to think I've had fun on researching and just listening to different opinions, but it's just amazing to just start riffing and how many things you learn by riffing. And that's kind of what we were talking about. The whole reason we started this was just like, we'll be sitting in a car drive, just start talking about something. And it's a 4-hour drive. And next thing we know, we're out here, and we're just like, we've solved some of the world's problems, so we thought, why not throw it on a mic and record it? But, it's just so fun to, feel like you're learning something every day. And that doesn't even have to be a goal. It's just a byproduct of doing fun things and trying something new. Like, from time to time, just surrounding yourself with cool, innovative people. And it feels like, sometimes I have a lot of trouble because there's so much going on that it's hard to compartmentalize all that in one time and place. And it can be very overwhelming. So I feel like no human is perfect. And as far as how life is for me now, it's been interesting trying to combine all of the aspects we're doing right now, which is like working on Evolve together, right, with a couple of other awesome guys, I might add, and working on my YouTube channel and trying to pursue athletics to an extent. And it can get kind of overwhelming sometimes, right? Trying to make sure that's all there. So I think I'm going to learn a lot just talking with you right now and getting feedback from everybody who's listening, just how to handle all of the things life throws at us. And I live a pretty simple life compared to a lot of people I know. So I'm amazed by how much stress people can handle. And I think a lot of that leads to burnout sometimes though. So I think we're here really trying to talk about things and ways to live a lifestyle where you can do everything, but in a way that is sustainable to carry on throughout your entire life without getting burned out on a particular subject or just shutting down. But last thing is, before I let you go not to let you go, before I hand it back to you is, burnout is not a bad thing. Burnout is a natural part of human beings, and I think there's a negative stigma around burnout just because it leads to lack of productivity. And sometimes we're just going to be unproductive. And that's great. I think that in itself is productivity in some points, just to be able to refresh, renew our energy, and refocus on what we're doing. So
yeah, so one of the things we're talking about a lot is, of course, like this aspect of sustainable lifestyle and productivity, like you mentioned. And I think many people will be surprised that, and this is what I believe, and I think this is what we talk about too, is like there's 50% of being productive is resting and recharging and recovery. Whether you're working out, whether you're studying, or whether you're working, in an office, there's people neglect the beauty and of eating healthy and sleeping well and really getting rest and how much of that contributes to you being able to be more productive when you actually sit down and work or go out and for a run or a workout, and that's one of the things we're talking about a lot in this podcast is really not only how to a lot of what we're going to be talking about is fitness related and food related, but also we're going to talk about how to rest effectively, how to recovery if you're an athlete or if you're coming from kind of a productivity person, if you're into if you're a student or if you're working in an office, we can frame that more in terms of how to rest better, and of course we're learning this together. I make mistakes all the time. Sometimes I stay up too late. Sometimes I sleep in, and sometimes I feel like
that's
shit.
Life, bro.
Looking at this more holistically is really about enjoying this process of building, of self-development, or becoming a better person for yourself first, and then for other people, for your family and for your friends and girlfriend or boyfriend or people around you. And
I think a lot of what that is just pursuing progress and not perfection, because at no point are we ever going to reach the best version of ourselves. I think that is very hard to do. I think, very few, if not zero human beings have ever reached the best version of themselves, but it's striving for that is life.
Nobody's perfect.
Literally nobody is perfect. We all have flaws, and that is a human condition.
Yeah.
And it's just the fun part is supposed to be pursuing the best aspects of not just yourself, but also in life and in other people, and that's supposed to be the fun part, and it's about, a lot of it is trusting your own process. I like people always say, trust the process. I think it's more about trusting your own process, because everyone's process, I think, is a little different. And that's part of the individualism of human beings, and not just human beings, in the entire world that we live in, all living beings, there are more homogenous things than us, but in the end, everything is individual and every living organism is different in its own way. Right. And I'm getting pretty existential there, but I think the point should be well taken, that it's the process that is fun. And no matter who you are, no matter what you do, whether that is in athletics or in a very fast-paced working lifestyle or in a family lifestyle, that there are so many principles that apply to all of us that we don't even talk about, and maybe we separate them in some elitist fashion when in all honesty, all of the very all of the principles that we apply to our lifestyles are very similar. And I think it makes us all stronger in different ways, but it also makes us all stronger in the same way. And it just manifests itself in various ways depending on what your focus is. And every human being is going to have a slightly different focus. And I think that's amazing. But we're here to really show you how to sustainably do it. And I think it's funny because I don't want the definition of what we're doing here to get misconstrued. I just looked up the definition of life sustainability earlier, and not that this isn't important. I saw that it was living sustainably in a holistic earth approach where you're, reducing your carbon footprint. And not that that isn't important, just to clarify, that isn't quite what this is about. We will touch upon that, I'm sure, at some point, because that is all a very real thing. And it's very important that we all do that right now. We were just watching the Netflix series about that yesterday. But we're really focusing in on individualism and how we can all be better at living a life sustainable in our own way.
Yeah. And, my personal definition of what we're talking about here, when we're talking about sustainable lifestyle, is really being able to, think of things long term. When think of the things you're doing every day and things you enjoy doing, and how do you make sure that you can keep doing that long term, and how do you make sure that whatever you're doing today, right now, and of course thinking about it long term, how do you find meaning in whatever you're doing? How do you find happiness and excitement and that lasts long term? And in a lot of ways today, there's so much stimuli, there's so much, there's technology and social media, there's so much that happens spontaneously and give you this dopamine rush in your head, and that lasts for a couple seconds, and there's this sense of this short-term gain that I think many people in our society have come to see that as like happiness. Then and at the end they kind of find themselves burning out, or either feeling out of touch with things in the world. And so my definition of then the goal that we want to tackle here in this podcast is really discuss how do you translate things that makes you things that makes you happy, things that make you feel like you're living a meaningful life, and apply that in a long-term way. And honestly, I mean, and to be honest, we don't have the definitive answer.
We definitely don't got the answers to that. Bunch of 23-year-old boys here.
Yeah, but we're working on it, and I think if at the very least we can be kind of for anybody listening right now, and we could be partners to your journey. And I think and Noble, you're my partner in this journey in terms of what we're building here, and what we and our goal for our business, and also like for just being a friend, and in terms of the workout buddy, and
definitely.
So in that similar way. So
no, dude, I love that you talked about kind of long-term sustainability, right? And I think in the end, like, who knows how long we all have to live, right? We could die tomorrow, right? And I think as humans, we're always like really looking into the future. And I think that's great. I think it's awesome to be kind of thinking about what the next move is. But I can't remember. I think I'm not a particularly religious human being, although I think I respect most religions, but I think it was, Taoism or something that said, you guys are going to find out how ignorant I am about religious studies, but I think it was Taoism that said, like looking into the future, you're going to be stressed. Looking into the past, you're always going to be like, I'm paraphrasing, you're always going to be kind of like, uncomfortable or unhappy with what happened, but being in the present is really where life exists. And I think being in the present is really the way to continue forward into the future in a sustainable way. And of course, that is like one very small aspect of it. And I'm going to get on to another point here pretty soon, but I think the point is worth making that if we all just kind of stopped and really enjoyed what we were doing now and the beauty of the moment we were in right now, then it would be a lot easier to digest the future as it comes, right? Yeah. And it just feels like most people don't recognize the best moments of their life until they're looking back at it, when they really were, they weren't enjoying it for the moment it was at the time. You know, they were, and I mean, in the world we live in now, they were too busy putting it on their Snap story or their Instagram story or filming it. I mean, I know I was just at the Grand Canyon and I was so busy filming it, I almost like didn't realize how much fun I was having at the time, you know? And looking back at the video, I love that I have those memories, but
and also the people around you.
And the people around you, right? Yeah. And you could have just as easily been I could have just as easily been very much enjoying where I was at the time, more so than if I was kind of focused more on an exterior motive of filming. Not that I didn't love filming, and I can look back at it now forever and see that. But it's also like there is beauty in there is beauty in every fleeting moment. And I think as humans, we often ignore that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. For me, and I think for a lot of people, we've lose touch in terms of what are the things that we're doing, that we're just going with the flow with the society and people and doing things because everybody's doing it. And I mean, not to say that it does like generally wrong or anything. It's just kind of part of what we're doing here too is really understand things from perspective of things that are for you and things that maybe things that like you like doing and you enjoy doing short term, long term, that might be different from other people, and how can you objectively assess things that makes you feel generally good and not just because your friends are doing it and you just got peer pressure into this thing and now you're just in it, and maybe and some of these things I'm talking about may be huge, like college majors, you know, like, or jobs that you apply to and places you live in, and some of these things really have huge consequences in terms of your happiness and your well-being, you know, and
of course, I think that's kind of the idea here. And also, I loved the point you made. If you are listening this far into our first podcast, you probably either know us, you're our friend or family, or you're a YouTube super fan. So we love you for listening this far into it. Thank you so much. But I think a lot of all of what you just said kind of circles back to a feeling of gratitude, right? Yeah. And it feels like, I mean, as a society, especially in an American society, as someone who's grown up in that, I can't really speak for other cultures as well, but I feel like we're a society that really focuses on like achieving the dream or achieving happiness, you know? Yeah. And I think, I mean, you hear this all the time. You can see this in some random Instagram posts, is that like, you know, the pursuit of happiness often leads to the lack of happiness. But I think I've even seen a lot of this kind of these, not studies, but these testimonies where these people that are in search of the meaning of happiness, right? And it's happiness isn't just happiness. It's all of the emotions. I mean, if you've seen Inside Out, you guys know that, right? You got to feel all of the emotions to feel all of the best emotions. You got to feel the worst emotions and like we are beings that are multidimensional with our emotions. We are not built just to feel happiness all of the time. And I think that's a very natural thing. We're built to be depressed sometimes. We're built to be happy sometimes. And I think that's very natural. And we need to embrace that and not have a stigma around that so much, you know? But I think a lot of what people notice about the quote unquote happiest cultures in society is they're not all, you know, first world developing countries. They're often kind of, you know, second or third world countries. And what they all practice a lot is gratitude. They feel grateful for what they have and how they're living their lives. You know, they're not always constantly seeking the next computer or the next console, thinking that's going to make them happiness, or all of the likes that they're getting on Instagram or Facebook, you know? And I think the point is worth making that if we all just, not even focused, just practiced, you know, writing down something every night before they went to bed, what they were grateful for in that day, it would add just so much perspective to the world that we live in, if every human being did that.
Yeah. One of the topics I would love to explore more in the future, maybe just a little bit here on this episode, but maybe more specifically in the future, is this idea of toxic positivity. There's nothing wrong with, feeling sad when you're having a bad day. There's nothing wrong with even, cry a little bit. And it's especially true for men. And like for me, I can say this out loud too. Sometimes I just cry because, and that's what people do when we feel sad,
Yeah.
And we shouldn't kind of keep things in so much. But my point is that, kind of going off of what you just said, is we are a lot more capable of feeling more than just feel good.
We're not built to just feel good, man,
Yeah. Exactly. We're human and we experience things in multiple ways and yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we can touch on that now, but I'm sure we'll have a full episode on toxic positivity. And I do laugh about that because I often feel like, sometimes I can even be the perpetrator of toxic positivity where, generally maybe some people are like, you're always just smiling. What's wrong? And that doesn't always mean I'm happy. It just means, again, I try to practice gratitude every day on some level. And, I have a lot to be grateful for. But it's, I think it's a very natural condition also as a human to human relationship where you do want to, offer solutions, right? I mean, we were talking about this with my sister earlier a couple weeks ago, where like it is a human condition in a relationship to try and any kind of relationship to offer solutions, right? And offer kind of like, oh, you're going to be okay. Like life goes on, everything's great. Like when in reality, most people just want to like feel what they want to feel at that time, and I think we often repress that, right? We're often looking for how can we flip this feeling around to happiness. So turn that frown upside down, right? And I think that's fine to some extent, but also as a culture, we've also been becoming more sensitive to letting people feel what they want to feel, and even maybe our generation more so there, and not to hate on other generations, I think they've all done great things in their own way too. And in this way as well. And I encourage you guys to take issue with everything I say. I'd love to light me up in the comments or light me up wherever you're commenting or in the email you're going to send us about this and take issue with anything we're saying. I'd love for this to be a larger conversation than just between the two of us. So
yeah, no, but honestly, I agree with you I feel like we don't give enough credit to just processing information and feeling frustrated and feeling sad. Like you said, there are so many people in our, there's so many friends of ours, or any people when we approach and we just, we're just looking for a sense of empathy and I'm just like, hey, I'm just feeling down because I'm having this issue. And instead of that person, so like, I feel you, I feel, all we need as a human being is for someone to empathize with us. But instead of like, let me fix this for you. You have no right feeling this way right now. This is not good for you. We're gonna fix it and we're gonna move on from this. And I mean, of course, like solution is great, especially when it comes to like financial issues or whatever. And having solution, those helps. But sometimes when it comes to a relationship, whatever, sometimes we just need someone to empathize with us and feel that with us
and listen.
Exactly.
And I make an emphasis on that because I'm a terrible listener. I mean, you guys probably already...
You're a good listener.
I don't know. You guys probably already hear from the way I'm talking on this podcast, man. Like, I am a terrible listener. I am definitely more of a... I get this from my mom, and I bet she's listening this far, like she always said, the gift of gab, just like talking about stuff. But that's something I've really focused on, especially as a personal growth, like something I've focused on in the past, I think 2 years, especially, to really like try and listen and learn more so than talk and teach. Not that teaching isn't great. I've already learned something new probably 3 times since we started this podcast, just from listening to you and hearing myself talk, forming coherent thoughts about something or incoherent thoughts. I don't know. But it's all about a process, right? It's all the process. And that's trusting your own process, identifying or letting others identify what you need to work on, how you need to fix that in a more kind of I don't want to say logical, but in a very like beneficial way, right? I think as humans, our first, even my own instinct is when I get constructive criticism for many things that I'm doing wrong, like personally, like emotionally, is to like get defensive, right?
Yeah.
I'm a defensive person. When it comes to something like editing, I'm much more open because I recognize all the flaws I have into that, and it's very easy for me. But when you get kind of in the nitty gritty, it's much harder. Yeah. And I think a lot of humans are like that. I mean, I think you'll find very few humans that won't get defensive when you start like when you just like objectively comment on a flaw they have, like most humans aren't going to be like, oh yeah, you're right. That's something I need to work on right now. That's not going to be a thing. But I think again, like it's important to be aware of that. And I mean, if we even touch one person today with that thought, then I think we've had a success here,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's true. Like going back to what we were talking about earlier about living a sustainable lifestyle and sustainable happiness and sustainable work-life balance and all those things. And the reason we talk so much about other people too is because we're living in a society, right? And of course there's, I think, one of the goals that we're shooting for here is like, having, for at least for myself, and I think for you as well, is to be able to build a strong sense of self, but also a strong sense of friendship, with you. And I think this alone is a big part of contributing to living, a happy life and a balanced lifestyle. So, and again, there's, a lot of what we're gonna touch a lot of topics that have to do with this kind of like, individual versus other people, and talking about productivity versus rest.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about workout and recovery. And there's that's part of the goal here is to find balance in kind of seemingly polar opposite things. And but actually they go hand in hand, like your sense of self go hand in hand with the people you're around. And how what we said earlier, like how, your ability to be your athletic ability has to do with a lot of how you eat, how you rest, not only because how much you work at, how much you train. Of course, that's important too. But like I said, these two side of things actually go hand in hand. And I think the value that we've trying to create here for anybody listening is to like explore that balance. Where's the balance, and what's a healthy balance between sleeping and running and eating and fasting, maybe,
a topic coming soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can talk about fasting for quite a while. I mean, and I think it's a process, all of this is a process, and I think we digesting this as we go as well, and I think, and I hope anybody who's listening right now can apply some of this into their own lifestyle. And
word of the day, word of the podcast, man, this is a podcast. Word of the podcast is balance. I'm going to say balance and gratitude. I like that word I came up with. Balance and gratitude are the words of the podcast. I think those are very important things to, if those are the only two words you take out of this, wherever you are right now, I think definitely try to apply that into your life instantly, right now. Do it right now.
I mean, in a little ways, that's very easier said than done. And what we're trying to do here is, when we talk about balance, we talk about, moderation and things. And I think part of the value we can create here again is to be able to frame that in a practical way, and what does it mean to find balance in your fitness life? What does it mean to find balance in your mental health, and or even find balance in your being on the phone and scrolling through social media, and finding balance in and I think a lot of the things we'll be discussing is making that habit of balance tangible and more practical.
And maybe also talking about the fact that those are all very connected things. They're not just individualized things. They're all very connected in their own way. So, and they all contribute to each other, and it fosters its own ecosystem in your mind and body, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're approaching at the end of this first episode. We'd love to hear. I mean, if anybody listening this far, that's just amazing. And if you're listening this far, definitely shoot us a question or thoughts or comments, whatever you.
Oh my God, yeah! If you haven't blown away in the past 10 seconds, then you are a real one already. Welcome. Big things are coming. We're excited, and please hit us up. Take issue with what we said or recommend topics for us. We are open books. We are excited to keep doing this. I have loved this process, and you know what? This has been a great journey just in the past 35 minutes. So, you know what? Thank you from me from the bottom of my heart. Y'all are great. We love you. And until next time, stay healthy, stay chill, and cheers, friends.